right, thank you, clerk. Call to order the Common Council meeting for Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. Clerk?
Thank you, Your Honor. 11 members are present and voting in civic clerk, and 1 member is excused. Alder Weary.
All right, thank you, clerk. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation led by Alder Lynn Gerlach. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the flag
United
of
States
the United States of America
and to
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would invite you to be seated, please. You know my style. What a time it is to be alive on Earth. So much has happened since the last time we met. The tragedy in Afghanistan, especially the tragedy for the female half of the population. The natural disaster in Haiti, again, at least 1,400 dead. The largest wildfire in recorded history, still out of control on our West Coast. And we're just informed that climate change is no longer reversible. A key freshwater reservoir, Lake Mead, at almost its lowest level in about 100 years. Knowing now that some of our western states are going to face water rationing, and some of their farmers are going to get half the water they're used to getting for their farms. And through it all, the COVID numbers rising steadily. You know, when I face things like that, a situation that bleak, I always look for a poem to help me understand it or interpret it or maybe cope with it. I had a really hard time this time. I really had trouble trying to find a poem to deal with all of that. And I finally settled on one that comes pretty close. The interesting thing is that this poet couldn't possibly have anticipated any of this because he died in 1993. This is the American poet William Stafford, and he wrote this poem called A Ritual to Read to Each Other. And I think it's kind of appropriate for what we're facing right now. If you don't know the kind of person I am, and I don't know the kind of person you are, a pattern that others made may prevail in the world, and following the wrong God, we may miss our star. For there is many a small betrayal in the mind, a shrug that lets the fragile sequence break, sending with shouts the horrible errors of childhood, storming out to play through the broken dike. And as elephants parade, holding each elephant's tail, if one wanders, the circus won't find the park. I call it cruel, and maybe the root of all cruelty, to know what occurs, but not recognize the fact. And so I appeal to a voice, to something shadowy, a remote, important region in all who talk. Though we could fool each other, we should consider, lest the parade of our mutual life get lost in the dark. For it is important that awake people be awake, or a breaking line may discourage them back to sleep. The signals we give, yes or no or maybe, should be clear. The darkness around us is deep.
Thank you, Alder, for those words. On to approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
Got a motion made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Dorf, to approve the minutes from the August 3rd, 2021 council meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. Agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion
Second.
to approve the agenda made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Corpus Stacks. Any changes here? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The agenda has been approved. Just a couple notes here in my report. Just a couple of events that I wanted to flag for people upcoming this Saturday. There is a dedication of a mural over at Napoli's Lounge on Cedar Street on Saturday evening. So I will be there to read a proclamation and cut a ribbon and dedicate that mural and dedicate the reopening of the front door at the Napoli's Lounge, which should be a very nice event, well attended, and would invite members of the public and members of the council to that. Also, we've got an Ignite Market coming up on Saturday, so we haven't had one of those in a couple years. Welcoming them back, of course, and so planning to visit that. My wife and I will be down there and might even be guest bartending. So come out and grab a beer. So encouraging people to attend that event as well, and just keep an eye on all sorts of things that are going on. I think Rock the Dock is also on Saturday evening on City Deck. Have a lot going on all over the city, and want to see people out and enjoying those things. So that's all I have for a report this evening, and we will move along to announcements from our council. Any announcements?
Your Honor?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, just one more event going on, kind of a big one. Untitled is coming back for the
Yes.
at the library. Most of it's going to be held, I believe. A lot of fun authors, fun events, fun things going on there. So a lot going on, but check it out.
Absolutely, great point. Other announcements?
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead, Alder.
I just wanted to say that what Alder Scannell had mentioned, yes, is coming up, and there is an author that's going to be there. And I just started reading this author, and she writes about Door County. It's murder mysteries about Door County.
Oh, very good. Any other announcements from council? All right, seeing none, we'll move along to appointments.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Stevens. And that is to approve our one appointment here, which is an appointment to the Redevelopment Authority, Brooke Gerke, serving as liaison for On Broadway. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Yes, Alder Johnson.
Please,
Repeat that, Alder?
if I could be shown as abstaining.
Absolutely. So that motion is approved. On to ordinance's second reading for adoption.
Motion to adopt.
Motion has been made to adopt that ordinance, made by Alder
Second.
Scannell, seconded by Alder Corpus Dax. Any discussion? Seeing none, we will use the board.
Thank you, Alders. You may vote.
I'm a yes, Mayor. Mine's not coming up.
Thank you.
I'll vote yes as well. Mine isn't coming up either.
Oh, Alder, I do have your vote, so thank you so much.
Oh,
Yes, I'm not sure why it didn't come up. I see you as
you see me as yes? Okay.
yes. Yes, make sure I'm in the right place. Yes, indeed.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you so much. Let me share my screen.
And that is adopted 11-0, showing off our mind reading software.
Oh, no, you can't see it?
No. I was just joking about Alderdorf.
Maybe I did it and then, never mind. I was reading the next item.
All right, and now we are on to item K, report of the Redevelopment Authority.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Dorf. Any items here you wish to handle separately? Item 2. Any others? Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved with the exception of item 2. Your wishes?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Motion to approve made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Dorf. The item was pulled by Alder Johnson. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question for Director Hronik. I watched the video on this, and it's my understanding that the bulk of this expense is really coming from laying the fiber to the parks that would be required to create the hotspots or the Wi-Fi in those areas. I know that there's been some secondary conversations about the potential to plug into some security systems for issues that are occurring in some of those parks. Have there been any conversations or are there any thoughts around tertiary benefits from laying of that fiber? Are there, beyond security and beyond those Wi-Fi spots, is there anything else that fiber would be used for?
Yes.
good answer.
With authority.
Yes, there's been discussion on what other uses there could be of that. We would have to see if it complies with the grant rules.
Okay. And I think, and I had a conversation with Director Sexualty on this earlier today, and Assistant Director Rainier Wig and I had a brief interaction through text here. I guess, when I start to look at least what the initial proposal was and the way this was presented to RDA, we're looking at about $250,000 to run Wi-Fi to 4 parks as the primary use to solve a problem of connectivity issues that we have in our low to moderate income neighborhoods. And while I recognize and acknowledge that certainly is a challenge that we have in some of those neighborhoods, some of the conversations I've had with folks in this industry have indicated that when you take $250,000, is this the best bang for the buck? And I guess I'm just a little bit concerned that perhaps we haven't really turned over every rock to determine if we're making the wisest and best use of this investment. Even as I was talking to Director Steckschulte, it seems to me that 4 parks, people would actually have to go to the park with their devices to be able to get access to that. And you think about like schools, for example, being high users of this. But schools in session during times of the year when you'd have to be outdoor wearing your mittens, at a park. I just can't help but wonder if there's perhaps some other uses that might be able to help us better or more effectively reach those audiences. Something like mini grants that could be provided to pay for Wi-Fi directly to housing, and that may or may not be a qualifying expense to the grant. But the general conversation I've had is that there might be some other uses here that haven't been fully vetted. My conversation with Assistant Director, again, Rainier Wig, was that we do have enough time to refer this back to committee to perhaps have some more conversations with community partners that could help us better frame and understand other solutions that might exist to meet that need. And so with that said, I'm going to make a motion that we refer this back to staff to engage in some of those conversations with other community partners.
Second.
Motion has been made to refer this back to RDA. Alder?
Yes.
And,
Well, I would say refer to staff because they have to do the work, and then eventually they'll bring it to RDA when they're ready.
Okay, apologies. Motion was made to refer this item to staff by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Stevens. Further discussion? And first I'll go to Director Hronik just to respond to any comments.
I'm willing to do that, and I'm willing to partner with private organizations to share the conduit with. Definitely.
Okay, great. It looks like we have a few alders, Alder Brunette and then Alder Gerlach.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I support the motion. At the end of the day, what would be great is that we get the most with these funds. We get the most Wi-Fi internet capabilities as possible, whether that be in a public facility, a partnering business, grants, as Alder Johnson alluded to, directly to end users. The goal really is to get as many people connected, and that's maybe going to require a little more discussion to make sure we're using the $250,000 the best possible way to make that happen. I applaud city staff up until this point. You know, I watched the RDA meeting. There was some discussion, not the full depth of discussion that I would have liked to have seen, considering it's $250,000. So I'm in full support of the motion.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Gerlach and then Alder Dorf.
Just two quick questions. One is whether there's a deadline for when this money has to be spent. And the second one is, this is a rather creative solution. So I'm wondering where the thought process, if someone could briefly explain why this was the decision for parks.
Yeah, we could go to Director Hronik for that.
I think we'd have to discuss what the grant guidelines are, and it had to be spent in low-income areas, and there's probably somebody who can better speak to this than me, and then it had to be broadband-based. So you're kind of limited in what you can do and where you can go with it. We split up the spatial distributions between the parks as best we could, but again, I'm more than willing to discuss the map or the layout of the fiber conduit with everybody.
Okay, thanks, Director. And then in terms of timeline, Director Steck-Schulte?
I think big discussions with staff. I believe that we have there's a timeline in September. I think later September we're committed to where we're going to be using this. And Director Hronik was correct. I mean, we have, I think, Deputy Director Riggs informed me that we have to spend these funds in areas that have already been approved in CDBG areas, not in terms of geographic areas, but in terms of actual funding group areas. So we are somewhat limited in doing that. So I think broadband was one that stood out as one that made a lot of sense in terms of having the most opportunity. But we certainly, staff does not have any issues with going back and taking another look at that to ensure that that was still the best option. Right now, my personal feeling is that it probably still is our best option to do that, but certainly making sure that we're doing it in the manner, as Alder Brunette said, in the manner that does have the maximum benefit. Staff's more than happy to go back and take another look to ensure that that is the case.
Okay, great. And then Mr. Peters, I think you were interested in
Yeah, Neil and Mike are both on point. I just wanted to expand upon what they mentioned already. There are limitations to these funds. So we do have to follow the original allocation programs that were developed for the first round, right? So that was we can only fund projects either in the essential frontline employee relief, the homeless shelter assistance activity, or the business revolving loan activity, or the grants. So we can't create any new activities. We have to funnel these funds into one of the activities we already developed. We reached this decision for this activity because the money from the other activities we funded, with the exception of the homeless shelter assistance, have not been completely spent down. On top of that, there are already a number of other funding sources out there currently, such as the WERA funds for rent and mortgage assistance. So we didn't want to duplicate any other programs that were already out there. And then in terms of the broadband, this is still community development block grant funds. So though it's geared towards pandemic relief, we still are bound by the limitations of the block grant dollars. So regarding paying for direct service to houses, that's not an eligible activity. We couldn't do that. We could only lay down infrastructure. That's the eligible activity through these federal funds. And then just with talking with members of the school district, and looking at just what the connectivity rates are in some of these neighborhoods, that's how we honed in on these four neighborhoods and honed in on the activity of broadband access.
Great.
But to Director Neil's Schulte's points, we're more than happy to take another crack at this and explore this further.
Okay, thank you. Alder Gerlach, did you have any further?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, Alder Dorf?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I'm on RDA, and when this first came up, I was kind of taken aback because this was an unusual idea. I had never heard of anything like it. I was concerned because the broadband was going to be from the shelters. And I thought, well, what are people going to do, during winter and inclement weather? I thought it was a fairly robust conversation. There were lots of questions asked. By the end of it, I was convinced that Director Hronik and Will Peters and Neil Stekshuki had come up with a pretty good idea. I understood that there were these parameters, that it was within these certain parameters of the CARES funding, we could only use it. I understood why this bucket was chosen. I understood there was a deadline coming up. So now RDA doesn't meet again till September. And we're going to be pushing right up against a deadline between RDA and then getting it back to council. So I'm glad that there was more explanation tonight. I am just concerned. I'm asking staff, what other different thing could we come up with that quickly that fits all the criteria and that we can get, we can dedicate this money to by September? Because we did talk about it for a very long time at RDA.
Yeah, again, I never like to say that. I don't want to say that there aren't any other alternatives. There's always alternatives. We are limited to the 3 programs that we originally funded in our first round of CARES funds. I mean, that's really all we can fund. And within the essential frontline employee relief program is the more lends itself to more options with the creative thinking, looking at ways that families and residents, individuals have been impacted by the pandemic and how we were able to provide some sort of relief. And the discussion around broadband and increasing access to broadband is not something new. That is a conversation that has been happening for a number of years that Director Hronik can speak to, and also it's been happening for a number of years between the county and the school district as well. So that's just one that we thought, well, hey, this is an eligible activity with these funds, and this would be providing a service to those families who, approximately 1 in 4 in these neighborhoods have either no or limited or no access to broadband. And then looking further, there are areas as well, because my understanding, and Director Hronik can correct me if I'm wrong, really right now we have to work with what infrastructure is currently laid out between county conduit and ours and build off of that. So we couldn't necessarily just jump all of a sudden to the other side of town where there is no infrastructure already. I mean, we really kind of have to almost branch out from the center, so to say. Because I know that there are also other, neighborhoods like near the Nicolay attendance area, Nicolay School, and like Eisenhower Park. That is even a dead zone for the hotspots that the school district has that lets their students use. So it was just an issue that staff looked at and explored, and through discussion, that's where we reached that. So, but to your point, again, we can go back and discuss this further and bring it back again to the RDA in September. I'm not going to say that we're not going to find another alternative, because who knows, we could. But I can say that staff and others, myself, like Director Hronik, Krista Cisneros, other staff, we've tried to, explore this as much as possible. And this is up to this point, the best use of these funds that we've been able to determine, outside of, again, funneling these funds into a program, another separate program that already existed. But those funds still have money in them. They're not all spent down yet. So we wanted to be conscious of that and the other funding sources that are out there through the state and local level.
So is this just a start? Maybe I should direct that to Director Hronik. Is this just a beginning, and then from there it can get bigger? Or is this like the 4 parks, and then at some point you can't really add on to it?
Yes, you could add on to this. We have built that into it. We would like to reach further out to other low-income areas if more grant money becomes available.
And at what point are we risking not getting that money? What is the drop dead date? When do we have to have this decided?
Mr.
So
Peters?
So this money is allocated to us. It's available. It's sitting in a reserve. Let's say it's sitting in an account for us at the state. We simply have to request it. And we can choose not to request these funds at all. These have already been awarded and therefore obligated to spend them. We just don't want to say no to money that is available to us as a municipality. As far as a deadline, we already submitted a letter to state saying that we will be funding, a program that we already created with our first round of CARES funds. If we decided to switch that from the essential frontline employees to, let's say, homeless shelter assistance, we could do that. We could take the month of September. I mean, we're not going to miss a deadline if this is put off another month. That being said, I'm not going to. Staff is confident in the decisions that can be made, but we will take direction ultimately from council here, and more than willing to work with you on this.
Okay, well then, just in my final statement is I'm confident in as well, because that's why I voted yes on it in RDA, and I hate to send it back, and I know that's probably what's going to happen, but I do want to tell you, Will and Mike and Neil, I am confident that you made a good choice.
Thanks, Alder. Director Steck-Schulte?
Just obviously, just a note on this, and the key thing to have, I think, for our sake, is to have funds kind of obligated and ready to be spent, if not actually spent by the deadline. So certainly having some, maybe even if we had to do a special RDA meeting to try to do something, maybe that's something we could consider to try to get it to the earliest council meeting possible. Again, we have our own purchasing guidelines and things we need to do when we're contracting. So we may, obviously providing the maximum amount of time for us to be able to do that certainly is beneficial. And certainly would be well used in terms of our soliciting any sort of work that we may end up needing to be done from a contractor. So just in terms of the actual having the money dedicated, we can designate it by the end of that time, but I think we really want to have that kind of actually committed, and we can demonstrate that the money has actually been committed by the end of September.
Okay, thank you. Alder Lefebvre, then Alder Galvin.
My question is simple. My understanding is that they wouldn't have to physically be in the building in those parks, would they? Because I think you can pick up, you can, click in to different ones. Like to me, for Bay Beach, I don't have to be right at Bay Beach. Is that right?
You're correct.
How far can you go out from the physical, like the building?
There are many variables. You have environmental variables and, other structures that could compete with it, block the signal. So every location is different. I could not give a total radius for you.
Okay.
Alder Galvin and then Alder Stoyer.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Director Schulte wanted to say something.
Director Steck-Schulte?
Just quickly, I think the ideal goal would be to actually be able to have residents, certainly for in bad weather, be able to access it from the parking area in their vehicles, so they wouldn't have to go out actually to get out to access the service in each of those parks. Just wanted to make sure. Ideally, that would be our goal. We may need to work with Director Ronick to make sure we've got enough infrastructure to do that. But that would be the objective, I think, at each of those park facilities.
Right. Alder Galvin?
And then based on what Director Schulte just said, Steck-Schulte, I'm sorry, said, if I recall, I don't recall a parking lot at Navarino Park at all. I think it's all street parking. And as Director Ronick is talking about, there's environmental factors that could limit the range of the Wi-Fi. It concerns me, but and if we could open the park shelters in the winter, if there was announcements made at the schools that the children could then go into the shelters, say if they walk from home while they're waiting for mom or dad to get home from work. But I agree with Alder Dorf. I think staff has done a real good job looking into this. But I don't think it hurts to take another look, especially if we have some fresh information put in. But I will relate this story, and this is what's happening here reminded me of an incident that took place a few years ago. I was in Haiti. My daughter was living there working in a town of about 30,000 people, in which there was no electricity at all in the town unless you had a solar panel or a generator. And it's kind of weird to be driving around in a town at night and the only lights literally are your headlights. There are no street lights or anything else. Everything is pitch black. And we came upon a building that was surrounded with a low 4-foot wall all the way around it. And this building was lit up like the middle of the day. And the wall was covered with school children at night doing their homework, sitting on the wall, doing their homework all the way around this building. And I asked my daughter, I said, what is this? And she said, it's one of the 2 morgues in town, and they have to have electricity. And so they turn on their lights at night so that the school children can go there and do their schoolwork at night by the light of the morgue. And so I applaud the city for looking for a way to make broadband more available to the citizens of this community. And I applaud the effort we're making. And I just hope that that what we do will draw the people that need it, just like it did in that small town in Haiti. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Storer.
Thank you, Your Honor. After listening to Will and Directors Ronick and Steck Schulte, as well as some of the other alders, I feel fairly confident with this as well. I think they brought up some very good points about broadband. I realize, there's time sensitivity regardless. If you have to call a special meeting, my feeling is that, let's just move forward with this. So I will go with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. And then Director Ronick wanted to chime in.
I would like to answer Alder Galvin's statement. We were going to stick up a pole in the middle of the playground area at Navarino Park and stick the Wi-Fi access point on that. So there is no shelter there, you're correct, but we were going to plan on doing that.
All right, thank you. I mean, that park is very well known for its reading chair, where they encourage school children to come and read books in groups and that. So I think that's a pretty good add-on to that program. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Gerlach for a second time. Oh, you're muted, Alder.
I know, I hit something wrong on my screen. Sorry. Just one quick question for the staff. If I were having to make this decision, my question would be, was there another really good second choice that you kind of have waiting in the wings? If there isn't, then I'm perfectly comfortable going forward with this. But I would like to ask you, is there a second choice that you thought was really good?
Director Steck Schulte.
My understanding, Alder, is that there really wasn't a good, clear second choice. Again, as I think Mr. Peters discussed, we looked at those other categories, and we have funds that remain unused in those other categories. So we really felt that this was the one, kind of at this point was really the viable alternative that was presented, and did present a rather unique opportunity. It is a creative application of the funds, but I think it is targeting those neighborhoods where the income impacts are felt the hardest. So I do think this is a viable alternative, and I do think it is something that can be built on going forward. But to my knowledge, and I'll ask Deputy Director Renierweg or Mr. Peters to chime in, I was not aware of a competitive second option that was discussed.
Right, Director. This was the choice that we felt the most confident in, that we could spend these funds down in a timely manner, and it was also opening the opportunity to build off of this, to expand upon this infrastructure, which is what made it seem really appealing. The thought that I guess related to is you look at an electrical circuit, and you remove, a small fraction of that wiring, and that circuit no longer works. And I relate that to this, and that we're helping pave the way with this infrastructure to be able to reach further out into the city and grow this program. And so what I like about this option is that, yes, the primary benefit as far as these CARES funds are concerned, the reason why we're doing this is to create, those hotspots, those access points for students, families and individuals to access the internet for school or employment applications, et cetera. But there are a number of secondary and even third, fourth, quadruple benefits, I guess you could say, from building this infrastructure.
Great.
Thank you for that. I trust the staff. I trust the RDA. I'm good with it now.
Thanks, Alder. Any additional comments? Alder Johnson?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And again, just, I mean, two things that hearing a really robust and useful conversation here tonight. The first thing is that even in the motion here, it says that, hey, we're going to consult with Bridget Reardon, who is a member of the RDA and of course works for a tech company. But we're still honed in exclusively on parks. And I can tell you that in my conversation that I've had, that there are some possible uses that might be more beneficial and reach more people that aren't exclusive to parks, that there are some other areas that could be considered in some of these low-income neighborhoods, which again is why I go back to advocating for a referral. And I think it's been made clear by staff that we have enough time to refer this and have those conversations, explore those options. The other thing that kind of emerged that Mr. Peters has brought up a couple of times is that there are other possible options. And I don't want the city council to forget its obligation in this conversation, and that is staff certainly makes recommendations, and they've done some incredible research on this particular recommendation, but our job is strategic vision for the city and understanding where some of these actions fit into that. And we've only been given one option, and I think it would actually be very useful for us to understand what some of those additional options are. Mr. Peters had suggested the revolving loan fund loans, some of the other frontline assistance, and I appreciate the input that he provided as well, that in terms of why they steered away from those. But I think for my benefit, I'd like to better understand maybe some of the parameters of where else this could be invested. What are some of those other options to make sure that we're advancing the city as a whole in the best way, that we feel that the city council needs this to go. So again, we have the time. I think that there are some things that we can do to tighten up this recommendation, and it may come out that this is the recommendation. That's okay. But we do have the time to take a second look, so I would advocate for that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Alder. Any additional comments? All right. Well, I would just say that I've had conversations with Director Hronik on this, with Director Steck-Schulte. Obviously, I have a lot of faith in the work that staff has done in tandem with the RDA. I know that Director Hronik has already reached out to a local service provider to see how we might be able to collaborate. He's in constant contact with our Brown County IS services, because they also have, pretty robust infrastructure here in Greater Green Bay. I know going forward, he will continue to have those conversations to make sure that this work is done in the most cost-effective way. So from my perspective, I'm certainly comfortable moving forward, but we will see what council thinks. So the motion is to refer to staff. That has been made and seconded. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
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 Not sure what that was. We're going to use the board. And again, this is a motion to refer to staff.
Thank you, Alders. You may vote.
Mayor, I have a nay. Mine's nay.
Thanks, Alder.
Thank you. And I don't see other people voting, so let me just reset this vote and try it again. And I'll mark you as a no, Alder Sawyer. All right, and I have reset the vote. Thank you. Mr. Vanderleest? Thank you. Just give me a moment to share my screen. Excuse me, can you see that?
No.
No, okay. So sorry, give me one more moment.
And that is referred back 8-3.
Yeah, oh, you did, thank you, yes. There we go. Thank you so much.
You bet. All right, so now we are on to the report of the Improvement and Services Committee from August 11th, 2021.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Gerlach. Any items here to be handled separately?
One.
Any others? Item 1 will be handled separately. Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved with the exception of item 1.
Motion to approve.
Motion to
Second.
approve made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Stevens. This was pulled by Alder Brunette. You have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Public Works created a good investigation into the issues. One of the affected constituents doesn't agree with some of the reasoning, so I'm just simply asking for a motion to, I'll make a motion to refer back to committee for further discussion there.
Motion to refer back to committee made by Alder Brunette,
Second.
seconded by Alder Vanderleest.
Oh,
Director Grenier, any comments on that? Or? Director Grenier, any comments?
We'd be interested in hearing what the discussion is, but it's not going to change the outcome of what we came up with in the report.
Okay, very well. Alder Brunette, any response to that? Or?
To be honest, that's a little disappointing to hear that, one idea is proposed and someone kind of questions it, that we're going into it, that nothing will change. I guess I don't agree with that. We don't even know what the constituents' main concerns are. I'd rather discuss that committee. So I do want to refer it back.
Okay, Alder Galvin?
I think what Director Grenier was saying was that the report won't change. I mean, it's like mathematical problems. The numbers are the numbers, and what they have in the report. I would certainly hope that he would be open to suggestions if there's something that he or staff has not thought about. But
yeah, that's what I meant. And no offense, Director Grenier, maybe I misunderstood what you were saying. But yeah, refer back would be appropriate in my opinion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it. The item has been referred back. Report of the Protection and Policy Committee.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder LaFave. That is the report of the Protection and Policy Committee from August 9, 2021. Any items here to be handled separately? Hearing none. All in favor of approving that report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved. Protection and Policy Committee granting operator licenses.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Stevens. Any abstentions or names to be handled separately? Seeing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved. Plan Commission.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Corpus Dax. Items here to be handled separately?
Mayor, whatever one is the sandstone one, I can't see it on my screen for some reason.
Item 2.
Yeah. I don't even know if we need to pull it necessarily, but I just want to knowing that there's a spelling error, I believe, not here, but I believe under resolutions. So maybe staff wants to look at that. I just noticed it.
Okay. Spelling error in
I think it's sandstone, not sandstone.
Okay. We will have staff take a look at that. Thanks, Alder.
Mm-hmm.
So hearing none to be handled separately, all in favor of approving that report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. You guys have it. The report has been approved. On to personnel.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Stevens. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. EDA.
Motion to approve.
Motion has been made to approve the report of the EDA from August 2nd, 2021 by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Corpus Dax. Any items here to be handled separately? Number 2. All right, hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that?
Number 1, I have a question, just a quick question on number 1.
Why don't you just go forward with your question, Alder?
The amount, is that 5,000? I thought we had a special rate for parklets.
Question would be for Director Steck-Schulte, rather.
Yeah, I believe the grant, Alder, I think is to actually,
Oops.
I want to say something right, $20,000, $20,000 or $25,000, with the idea that a $5,000 grant would help offset the actual cost related for a private individual or business to actually create and implement their parklet. So that was the intent was to establish a fund to help cover all or most of the costs related to getting the parklet created and installed.
Alder Lefebvre?
Okay, we couldn't hear it the first part, but I guess I understand it. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yep, $5,000 is the correct number, Alder. That was intended to cover the cost to defray the cost of installation and construction.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
So we will handle item 2 separately. Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved with the exception of item 2.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Johnson. The item was pulled by Alder Corpus Dax. Alder, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just asking that we hold this until the next council meeting to allow staff and city attorney time to finalize the agreement.
Okay. Thank you. Alder, request has been made to hold this over until the next council meeting. That was certainly done in consultation with staff. So would entertain a second there?
Second.
It was seconded by Alder Vanderleest. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been held to our next meeting. Report of the Finance Committee.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Corpus Dax, and those are the reports from July 21st, 2021 and August 10th, 2021. Any items here to be handled separately?
Number 2.
Item 2, any others? Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the report has been approved with the exception of item 2.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Corpus Dax. Alder Brunette, you have the floor.
Yeah, for Attorney Chavez, do you have an update on this situation? Perhaps the council should go into closed session. I prefer an open discussion, but I understand the sensitivity. There are others who would opt to go in closed session. Could you kind of direct the council with as much as you can share in open session?
Attorney Chavez?
The update that I can share is that the response that was submitted to the WEC by complainants was rejected by their counsel, not meet the requirements, and so they've given them until the 19th to submit a new reply. And so the current document and all the exhibits have been stricken from the record.
Alder Brunette?
Just simply make a motion to hold until our next meeting.
Second.
Motion has been made by Alder Brunette to hold the item. It was seconded by Alder Johnson. Any discussion? Alder Dorf? Move into closed session is properly on the table.
Motion.
Say that one more time.
I would consider that a new main motion, so the motion to hold would take precedent.
Okay.
Alder Gerlach.
So if we're going to vote on the motion to hold, may I ask Alder Brunette to, if he can, without going into closed session, give any reason why he wants to hold it? I mean, I just hear that he wants to hold it, but I don't know why.
Alder Brunette?
According to what Attorney Chavez said, that the response to our response can be filed in a few days. So if you recall at our last meeting, I made the point that I would like to know once the response is filed that we had an opportunity to read it. Well, as Attorney Chavez says, it's stricken from the record. It's like that document does not exist. So it doesn't mean that there won't be a response that is accepted. So it would be appropriate to make a motion to hold to see what the response to our response is. And then second of all, I'm sure you all have received an email from somebody connected to this situation, and I don't think we should just gloss that over if there's some conflict with that person from what we're told. So just a simple thing.
Follow up with a question, please?
Yeah, Alder Gerlach, go ahead.
So when you say that it's been stricken, I'm just confused. Isn't that the document that we were already given access to and had like a week or 2 weeks to read it? And now it's stricken from the record? Am I right, Attorney Chavez?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so I've read it.
Two.
But it doesn't bear weight. I guess what I'm saying is it doesn't bear weight. It shouldn't bear weight in our decision because the complainants have an opportunity to respond to our response. Just because it was denied doesn't mean that when they edit it or revise it, that it won't be accepted by the WEC or whoever their legal counsel is.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Alder Galvin?
But, and this is for Alder Gerlach. Did you read the response to our response to their complaint?
If you're asking me if I read the most recent thing that
The
Attorney Chavez
250
sent,
pages? Yeah.
the what? Yes, I read that. Yes.
And if I mean, it's not going to change if they respond again. They're not going to change any information, and they just have to change how they submit it.
Right. I found it very difficult to read. I just wish they would have, yeah.
Okay. And so, Alder Burnett, you think that their response to our response is going to change, or just that their response is, I don't get it. I mean, we've read it or we haven't read it. We've come to a conclusion after we've read it or haven't read it. I would imagine whatever they give, if they give anything back by the 19th, is going to be exactly what they gave us before, except they'll do it in a format that will be acceptable to the hearing body.
If I could, Mayor.
Alder Burnett?
Yeah, it's just, I appreciate that, Alder Galvin, but what we're told from the attorneys that is stricken, that we shouldn't even consider it as if it didn't exist because it's not accepted. So it could be revised, it could be thrown out altogether. Maybe they make a more streamlined response. Maybe there are other information. I'm just trying to be consistent. I'm not trying to be scandalous at all. I'm just trying to say we don't know what will be accepted until we're making a decision to deny counsel or conflict counsel to a former employee involved with either this response or further. I'm just not even comfortable talking about the response, quite frankly, but I guess we are.
Well, I guess if they don't respond within 2 days, could I put an addendum on this motion that then we then deny, that we deny?
I prefer this to be.
Okay, so then we'll wait 2 weeks to see. Well, actually, we get to wait just 3 days to see if they respond. Then we get to wait another week and a half, and then hash this all out again. Can't wait. Okay, thank you.
Alder Dorff, did you have something?
The only thing I would have to say is that I don't really want to talk about in open session. And I really wish that we had an opportunity to discuss this rather than rushing yet again. It seems we show up at these meetings and we go, I'm not ready to make any city council decisions tonight. Let's just wait till the next meeting. And it seems to become quite a habit lately that we put things off from one meeting to the next. So I really would like a chance to talk about it in closed session and I have some ideas. Others might have some ideas. There might be some things that we can do. We can't do them if we're going to hold it again. We should come here prepared to make some decisions, if at all possible, and at least prepared to listen if there is some conversation that should take place. So I'm asking you to vote against this and to please allow us to have some time to talk in closed session. Maybe in the end, we'll decide to hold it. But we don't even get to talk about it, at least not in a way we can talk about it in open session right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Gerlach?
I wonder if it would be okay to ask Alder Burnett if he would withdraw his motion so that we can have a motion to move into closed session. Is that? And you can say no.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're directing that question to the mayor, but if it's to me, I think it's a good motion to remain consistent with what I stated at our meeting 2 weeks ago.
So you don't withdraw your motion?
I will not, no.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of holding this item until our next council meeting will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
We will use the board.
Thank you, Alders. You may vote.
And this is to hold the item until our next council meeting.
And Alder Brunette.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
And that item, or that motion is rejected 7-4. Alder Dorf,
I'd like to move that we go into closed session.
Second.
motion has been made to move into closed session by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder Scannell. Alder Dorf, can you read the language?
Yes, the council may convene in closed session pursuant to section 19.851G Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. The council will thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to section 19.852 Wisconsin statutes to take action on items discussed in closed session, if appropriate, and to consider the remainder of the agenda.
All right, we will use the board on that motion.
Thank you. Alders, you may vote. And Alder Stoyer.
I'm sorry, I left for a second. What was it again? What do you need here? Just a one.
The motion to enter into closed session has been made and seconded, and it's time to vote. So,
Okay. All right, I'm voting right now.
okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, we are moving into closed session on a vote of 8-3.
Okay, thank you, Alder and Alders rather, and Mayor, please give us a moment to move everyone into closed session and other people into the waiting room.
Great, thank you, clerk.
I move that we go back into open session.
Second.
Alder Dorf makes a motion to return to open session.
I'm not sure that the mayor heard that. Mayor, are you back in the council chambers?
Yep, can you hear me? Clerk Jeffries?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes, I certainly can.
Okay,
So
great.
there was a motion by Alder Dorf and seconded by Alder Scannell to go back into regular order.
Yes. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are back in open session. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve item 2 as written.
Second.
Motion has been made to approve item 2 as written. That was made by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder Gerlach. There has been a request to use the board, and we will absolutely do that.
Thank you. Your alders, you may vote.
Mayor, point of order. Can you explain what a yes vote is and a no vote? Because we're doing a double negative vote here.
So the item is to deny action on this request. So a yes is denying the request of Chris Teskey for conflict counsel.
Thank you.
One more time, the yes is to deny, correct?
Yes, correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, alders. I am just waiting on alders. Oh, thank you, Alder Stoyer. Alder Johnson? Okay, thank you.
And that vote is 9-1 with 1 abstention. Committee of the Whole.
Motion to approve, well, no. Well,
Do we,
we need to go into closed session.
Attorney Chavez, do we need to return to closed session, or is there a way that we can, the information has been provided to all of council.
Right.
Is there a way for us to simply move forward?
Yes, so you all were provided with an update last week. And so if you are willing to move forward with that update, you can make a motion to approve the recommendation of the law department. Otherwise, if you would like to go into closed session, we can do that, so I can explain it to you further.
The recommendation of our legal counsel.
Motion has been made to approve the recommendation on item 1. That was made by Alder Scannell and seconded by Alder Galvin. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That item has been approved. Receive and place on file.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Motion to receive and place on file the building permit report for July 2021 and the municipal court report for August 2021. That was made by Alder Scannell and seconded by Alder Stevens. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Those reports have been received and placed on file. On to resolutions.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Motion has been made by Alder Scannell to suspend the rules and take up items U1 through U5 with 1 roll call vote. That was seconded by Alder Corpus Dax. All in favor of the motion? Alder Burnett, did you have something?
Aaron, just wanted to let you know that the spelling in the resolution is correct from the other issue I mentioned earlier. So, so I'm fine with the motion.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Motion to suspend the rules was made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended.
Mayor, may I speak for a moment?
Yes.
Thank you. There is a missing document for the very resolution that Alder Burnett was talking about. And so Director Schulte sent it to everyone. There was a mix-up where we had the document twice in the resolution packet. We discovered that this afternoon. And so, as I said, directed resolution to the alders.
Okay. Very good. So I will.
Motion to adopt.
Yep. Motion to adopt the resolutions has been made by Alder Scannell,
Second.
seconded by Alder Stoyer, and we will use the board.
Thank you, Alders. You may vote. Thank you.
These resolutions are adopted unanimously, 11-0. Petitions and communications.
Your Honor, we got,
The ordinances, Mayor.
Oh, sorry about that. Ordinances,
motion to advance.
motion to advance made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Corpus Dax. Any comments on that? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That ordinance has been advanced. Now petitions and communications. Anybody? All right, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Scannell. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
What the hell was mine? I forgot.